Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. How you doing, Matt?
Oh, doing great, Marvin. Just watching the rain come down and wondering what it's going to do to us these next couple of days.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Because we get people and, it's like it's summertime. There's no avoiding that. But, it's this thing where you look at the forecast and every day it's showing you're going to get rain. And then some days it doesn't rain. And then some days, they say it's not going to rain and you get washed away. So what are you seeing kind of in your part of the world?
Yeah, I mean, that's the story. It's just summertime. Like we were talking about, I think those volume predictions come down to, just the radars and interpretation of radars. And a lot of what we get in the summertime is just these little pockets of intense rain that jump around the region, and you never quite know what you're going to get until it happens. It's hard to plan more than 12 or so hours out. So we had a fair amount of rain over the 4th of July weekend, just hour or two here and there, fairly hard. This afternoon, it rained really hard for about an hour and a half. But just in small pockets. So it really, in terms of how it affects the rivers, it just really depends on where it falls and how much falls there and for how long,
Yeah, which is maybe a good, time to give people kind of a refresher on the way to kind of read the gauges. Because, to me, I always say the best way to look at USGS gauges is, fish it and know what that level means when you're on the water. But, not everybody has that luxury. So you might want to, I don't know if you want to talk for a few minutes about kind of how to historically read what's going on to kind of get a feel for, what they could expect if they're going to drive and try to get in the water.
Yeah. I mean, I would say one good rule of thumb is that most of those USGS gauges have, you'll see the fluctuating line that tells you, where the stream flow is kind of hour by hour, but you'll also see some little triangles that show you sort of a seasonal average trend. And typically, once you get more than about double the seasonal average, you're getting pretty high. Like for example, below Radford, seasonal averages for the summertime somewhere between 2,000 and probably 2,300 cubic feet. Once you get above 4,500, still fishable, but the river's definitely getting up there. I would consider below Radford anything over 5,000 to be fairly high. And you definitely want to avoid getting on the river right after big spikes. If you don't know what the river does and how it behaves, sometimes that's a good thing. If you're, trying to catch a big brown trout on a streamer or something like that, but, it requires a little bit of historical knowledge about, what the different numbers look like on the river. But the biggest thing, if you're looking at a gauge and trying to decide whether you should go or not, I would say in the summertime is, you just don't want to see any big spikes. If you see even just a significant bump, it generally means that there's going to be a little bit of reduced visibility. There's going to be a little bit of dinginess in the water. If you've got a kind of a stable flat line or slowly declining trend, we haven't had rain in a little while and the water should be pretty clear and pretty tame as long as it, slightly above or below that seasonal average. And then, again, you can kind of infer from, those spikes in stream flow and how how it reacts days after, how fast things are going to clear up. If you have a big jump that, goes up 7-8 times the seasonal average, and then, probably you're not going to be fishing super clear water a couple days later because it's, you just saw a pretty good blowout, as opposed to, couple 100,000 cubic foot jump in a big river. a couple days after, you should be good to go. But like you said, it's tough because it has a lot to do with just knowing, it comes down to numbers. I know on certain rivers, that however many cubic feet is a good flow, and I can get my raft through this stretch at this flow, and above this gets scary and that kind of thing. So some of it definitely does just come down to experience.
Yeah. And, then you get to, so the water's kind of clear, right? And it's going to be kind of cloudy. So do you change your approach a lot? I know like everybody wants to fish top water for smallies right now, but if you've got stained water, is that going to get you to a kind of a streamer first approach, or are you going to still basically go with bugs?
Yeah. It really kind of depends on what your value set is. I mean, if you want to, I know plenty of people who just want to get on the river and fish bugs and take what they can get on that. And it's perfectly good. But I'd say there's kind of two different situations. There's high dirty water, and then there is such a thing as kind of average or even low dirty water, where we just had a really intense rain for a couple of hours, overnight or in the morning or something like that. And you get on the river after that, and the flow really hasn't kicked up much, but there's not much visibility in the water. And that latter situation is kind of tough from a topwater perspective, particularly a more passive kind of non-aggressive topwater perspective, because at low to average flow, you could still have fish spread out all over the place. And if you can't see them, and the fish have kind of a reduced, sphere of awareness because of the color in the water, then you're going to have a harder time selling them a bug than in clear water situations. So in that situation, I would probably go to a streamer first, just to kind of cover some lateral distance, across the river, and get in front of more fish. In the situation where you have higher water that is also dirty, if you have enough current to kind of eliminate a lot of the middle of the river, and push fish into predictable places, then fishing a topwater fly can be very productive. And as a guide, if I have two people in the boat, that's kind of an easy equation. You can see if one person wants to do one thing versus somebody else do something that's tried and true in that situation, and kind of just see what happens. If you're going out by yourself, or you have one person in the boat or something like that, it gets a little more tricky, because the question always in dirty water is, if you're not catching fish, is it because you're doing the wrong thing or because the water's dirty? So experimentation is important, but if I had to do one thing, I would probably go with a pretty visible streamer in that kind of situation, and kind of just put the time in.
Yeah, there you go. Well, folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us. You can DM us on social media. You can drop them in the comments to our social media posts, whatever's easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some Articulate Fly swag. And we're in a drawing for some cool stuff from Matt at the end of the season. And I know, Matt, we keep talking, and, the open days get smaller and smaller, and they're moving deeper and deeper into the season. You want to let folks know generally kind of what you have left and how to reach in, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. We've got a handful of dates in August. I think it actually might be early August, and then a handful of dates in September. But yeah, they're going fast, and particularly if we keep getting a bunch of rain, they might be going even faster with some rescheduled dates pushed later into the year. But all of my information is on my website, which is MattReillyFlyFishing.com, and you can call or email or text or reach out however you'd like, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.